there are a lot of people who are interested in ETA, and once they get going pursuing some opportunities, they are almost looking for third parties to help them make decisions, like what kind of
Totally.
business to buy, what's the right decision, how to all this stuff. I'm just going to gloss over the details. And I think I'm trying to suggest that when you get into the seat, there's nobody above you as the owner to tell you how to make a decision. And so I worry a lot of us, maybe it's a generational thing. We had relatively strong personality baby boomer parents who,
Right.
made a lot of our decisions for us. And that
Right.
is a huge burden when you go to become an owner, because everything falls to you.
All right. Welcome back to The Intentional Owner. We are recording.
Okay. Is this where we're supposed to take it seriously?
I don't know. Okay. I have to, before we even go into whatever topic you've decided, this is a voicemail we got to at the office phone last night at 11:12 p.m. I'm just going to read it to you. It says, and so he went through our IVR and selected like the emergency, like we have like an emergency like tree situation option. So he selected that. And it says, yo, whoever drives the Bluma car with the license plate CDM, that's my car, who lives in Ballard, which is where I live, you are an asshole. You park like shit like several times a week. You don't care about where you live. It's so clear. Like months ago, I started taking pictures of your car because I was like, okay, this person is an asshole and they just park like shit constantly. So I've got a literal gallery of you parking like a fucking asshole. You took up an entire yellow space, and don't get me wrong, you're not blocking me. I don't care. But like, do you not think about other people ever? I mean, and then on top of it, you have the literal name of your company on the side of your car, and you park like a fucking asshole all the time. Like, dude, I might sound upset, but I'm not. I'm just shocked at how much you don't give a fuck. And also, I'm not shocked. I just suggest that you literally change everything you do. I think that's pretty simple, don't you? Good luck.
P.S. Can I get a 10% discount on my tree trimming services? Oh, are you serious?
100% serious. So here's,
What do you do with that?
I don't think we call back, right? There's no way we call back.
Well, you probably don't send him or her the link to your Google reviews.
Well, yeah, I know I'm not trying to get trashed on Google. I'm not trying to get a 1-star review there, but no, like, so here's the thing. So in Ballard, which is like a neighborhood in Seattle, it's extremely tight street parking everywhere. And so like it is pretty normal. So when it says yellow space, what he means is that like what they've done is at some of the alleyways, they've like painted some of the curb yellow to make it easier to turn in and out of the alleyways. So like sometimes I will definitely park in those yellow, but like everyone here does that because like you can still like nobody's blocking anything, right? You're not blocking the alleyway. It's just like now you have to make a 2-point turn instead of like a single turn. And I've only lived here for 3 months.
But what do you do with that kind of message? Clearly, you're not going to have one of your people respond. Do you just let it go? Did he leave
I
his
think
phone
we let it
number?
go. Yeah, I mean, well, it's a voicemail on our system. Like we can see who it is.
Do you call him back, not on your cell phone, and just say, "Hey, man, we're neighbors. Good to meet you.
Yeah,
Next time I'll do better. Do you want a hug?"
maybe. Well, because this came up where
Or do you have a
like
stalker now?
there's well, so that's what my ops manager was saying. Like if you were a woman, this would be terrifying.
Totally.
Whereas yeah, which is fair. It's a very good point. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with it yet. But that was my news of this morning. So I moved my car because I'm like, this dude's about to key my car, I bet. So I moved it to right in front of my place because like people have left in the morning, so there's spots open again. Yeah, it's a strange one.
I don't know, man. Sometimes you got to wonder.
Yeah, I think there's like I love this neighborhood. I've lived in this part of Seattle for 3 years, and I've moved now into a more residential part of this neighborhood
Yeah.
versus the more commercial side of the neighborhood. And so there's like a specific brand of NIMBYism here that like I'm not that accustomed to.
Yeah.
Um, but Anna got a parking ticket recently, And like, I have literally not one time ever seen like parking enforcement officer on our block, like literally never. It's like we're on a random residential block, you know? And so it almost definitively somebody must have called it in and like been like, hey, can you come ticket this vehicle? So that's where we're like, oh, we have like a neighborhood crank.
Yeah. And what are you going to do? Just let the crank be cranky? And are you going to address it head on?
Yeah. The part of me is like, oh, like, I wonder if I address it head on and like they see me as like a real person, like maybe that mollifies them. But also like if they've gotten to the point where they're like out for a walk at 11 p.m. and like are calling our office line, like I don't know that I've got a lot of like there's not a lot there to work with. I don't know. I worry I might just make it worse and like turn it into like a personal vendetta for that person. Well, this is the downside of like the car I drive, my personal vehicle has like Bluma branding all over it.
Yeah.
That's just is my car. And so on the plus side, I think it's made me a better driver because I am actually like much more aware of like I don't want like to make like cut someone off by accident while I'm in all my branding. But yeah, kind of a weird one.
Super weird one. Super weird
Um,
one. I had a situation happen. We were on vacation about 4 years ago, give or take. And it was just my wife and me in a hotel room in the Bahamas. And you
mhm.
can imagine like a hotel room was just a bed, like a couch seating area with the TV, and then the balcony, and it overlooked
Yep.
the water. And I'm one of these people that already has like a tick around locking doors at night.
Hmm.
But this was like maybe the second or third night. Thankfully, I'm forgetting the details. Went to bed. I woke up. I was on the side of the bed closest to the window, the sliding glass
Right.
door. And I woke up like on my side in the middle of the night and I saw a shadow over in the couch area. And
Holy
so
shit.
I just assumed it was my wife. It was the middle of the night and
Right.
there was a shadow. It was my wife. So
Right.
you can imagine I'm on my side facing the
You roll
window.
back over.
I
Yeah.
kicked my right leg back because it was like an easy move just to confirm my wife wasn't next to me, that she was the
Right.
shadow. Of course, she was next to me. So you lose your consciousness when that happens. So I
Jeez.
jumped out of bed screaming.
Yeah.
The door was open. The man ran out the door, third floor balcony. He did like this gymnastics thing, like grabbed the balcony and flipped into the one below it.
Whoa.
So I stood there. I got to the balcony. He does it again from the second floor balcony to the ground level, and he
Right.
runs off down the beach, never to be seen again. So the thing that helped me was that a lot of people got broken into that night. The thing
Okay.
that didn't is the police were not being very friendly. And so guess where I ended up going that night? I booked a flight home,
The
man.
consulate.
I
Oh,
was
you went home.
we
Yeah.
were out of there by 4 o'clock that night.
Fair enough. I mean, you're not gonna have any like peace of mind now.
Yeah. So anyway,
Ugh, that's brutal.
it's almost like I think where I landed on this stuff is if it's going to continue to bother you, you do something about it. If you can actually let it slide and it doesn't take over your mind space and your psychology, then yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I guess the benefit, or not the benefit, but one of like because we serve residential customers, I'm a little bit more accustomed to now. Like once every 6 months, we have a customer that is just like way off their rocker, frankly.
And in that's not a derogatory term. They are truly deranged.
Yeah, and it's just like you have to manage it and not take it personally. You know what I mean? Like that's whether it's you just write it off, right? That's what we have to do that sometimes.
Yep.
But like I think if I were in a B2B setting, it might feel a little bit different because like everyone you're working with is in a professional setting. But in a B2C, like residential, like home services, it kind of comes with the territory. Which on the plus side, like I love the fact that I get to interact with the Seattle community every day, right? Like that is a core part of why I like owning this business and running it. Like Anna and I have talked about the fact that like living in community is inconvenient, right? Like there will be inconveniences, whether it's like you're spending a lot more time with your family or your friends or however, that comes with the territory. And like that's part of living in community. So that feels really positive to me. But this is the inconvenience is like you are going to run into some folks that are tough.
KD, thank you for the transition to today's first topic.
Oh, good. Excellent. I'm happy to provide.
All right, so let's get into it today. I brought like 3 topics that I thought were interesting, mostly because they've been things people have asked me. And it's not just one person that's kind of asked these questions. So it must be like themes that maybe we can talk through.
Sure.
And the first one is lifestyle, because suffice it to say, people who are, call it, in their late 20s, early mid 30s, they've been in their career long enough to get accustomed to that corporate steady paycheck, call it lack of enthusiasm career path.
Hmm.
And so I don't know if we've done enough to talk about like what is actually our lifestyle like, the days of the week, the hours in the day, the
Yeah.
physical involvement, and let's also like address the mental involvement. Yeah, let's start there.
Okay. So you want me to start with just sort of what does my schedule look like week to week?
Give me like a normal weekly schedule, assuming
Right.
nothing crazy, no crazy jobs, big travel, you name it.
Right. Man, but if I have a stalker now, I feel like I'm just giving him everything.
Oh boy, maybe not your address.
Yeah. He
No,
knows where I live.
better
What do
idea.
you
I'll
mean?
put your cell phone number in the show notes.
Yeah, exactly. He knows where I live within a block.
And if he wants to, he's going to find you. So whether that makes
Yeah,
you
no,
feel
that's
better
fine.
or worse, I do not know.
Yeah. Anyways, so my normal week is every Monday we have a team safety meeting, and that's the full team, and so that's at 7 a.m. at our yard. So that's usually that's where I get to first,
Yep.
and then so that's like 7 to 7:30. I'll go grab some coffee, and then I try to have blocked the first couple hours that morning for like CEO time, quote unquote.
Yep.
I'm not a CEO because there's not a lot of executives to be the chief of, but I, but but that is what one of my mentors, who was a true CEO, he called it CEO time.
We need a new
um,
letter for E, or a new word to replace the acronym CEO. All right.
yeah, it's like CDO, Chief Dumpster Fire Officer, or something. Yeah, CDFO. But anyways, okay, so I take a couple hours and like I use that to basically like get set up for the week.
Yeah.
And I've become like a big user of getting things done method, and I use Todoist for my task list. So I kind of just go through. I have sort of these recurring things I do every Monday morning that I kind of take my way through.
Yep.
Then I kind of begin my work day. I have 2 one-on-ones on Monday, so I'll go make my way through those, and then I'll usually wrap, like if I'm feeling tired, which is often the case on Monday, I'll wrap around 3:30 and head home. Versus other days, I'll usually stay till like 4:30, and I'm getting to the office around 6:45 to 7, because our guys dispatch from 7 to 3, like that's their shift. So that's my Monday. Tuesdays I work from home, which is a new addition as of last year and been a real unlock, which we can talk about. Wednesdays are my sort of next set of one-on-ones. So basically at 7:15 I have a call with our bookkeeper who's in India, and then I have 3 one-on-ones kind of back to back, like 2 salespeople, 1 office person, and then I have the rest of my workday. Thursday morning is our sales team meeting so that's again like, so I lead that meeting just with the sales team again at 7, and then I have one of the last sales one-on-one right after that, and then I have my day. And then Friday is usually more open, where I can kind of work a little bit from home, go a little into the office, but I'm still generally on like 7 to 3, 7 to 4.
This episode is brought to you by the Kalmar Group, a recruitment firm that specializes in placing leaders in the SMB community. Most small business owners treat hiring like a side project. Post on a job board, text a few friends, and hope for the best. But when it comes to leadership roles, hope isn't a strategy. The truth is, your people are your most valuable asset, and building the right leadership team requires more than luck. It takes a proven process. That's where the Kalmar Group comes in. They help owners like you find exceptional leaders in operations, sales, finance, and marketing, from managers to the C-suite, so you can stop guessing and start growing. Whether you're running a long-standing business or just acquired one through ETA, change is constant. Key people leave, new opportunities arise, and when they do, the Kalmar Group is there to help you hire with clarity, confidence, and speed. You hire an expert for legal, bookkeeping, taxes, etc. So why are you flying solo on recruiting and hiring? With clients across the country and a track record of results, Kalmar doesn't just fill roles, they raise the bar for how you hire. Led by founder Dylan Scroggins, a 15-year recruiting veteran, the Kalmar Group exists to help business owners stop settling for good enough and start hiring the kind of leaders who truly move the needle. To learn more, visit thekalmargroup.com or connect with Dylan directly. More details are in the show notes. So I have a question. How much of your day, if like you looked at your calendar, had meetings blocked out in it? Percent of 100?
Probably like 25%.
Nice. Really nice.
Yeah, not a lot. Yeah.
Really nice. Okay.
Well, the other thing I've learned over the last few years is I drive a lot is the other thing.
Yep.
Like, our business is physical, and so a lot of it is just like yesterday, like taking checks to the bank and then picking up a new combo lock for a new yard and like little things like that where, and to be clear, our operations manager, she picks up the vast majority of this, but like, because we're in the middle of moving yards, like she's in task overload. So I'm trying to pick up some of those tasks for her. And so there's a lot of just that kind of drive. Like we were like a hedge trimmer broke. So like go buy a hedge trimmer, take it to the job site. And like that just blows an hour and a half right there.
Yeah. So let me try and compare it to your former job in finance. Would you say the total hours are more or less?
Way less.
Okay. And to be clear, like your finance job was probably like an 80-hour-a-week job. Is that fair?
It fluctuated. I would think like at a minimum it was 60, maybe 55 on the week, like easiest weeks, but 60 generally.
Yeah.
And then the hardest weeks were 100.
Okay. And so you're working way less total hours. Are you working like finance is usually a late to late, like you can generally start much later in the morning, but you end up going much, much later into the night. What about, obviously you're in the residential home service trades. So it is almost entirely opposite. It's an early start. It's an early finish. Do you work nights usually?
I pretty rarely work in the evenings.
Okay.
It just, I mean, especially because I start so early, like I'm pretty fried by then.
Yeah.
If anything, like I work the latest on Tuesdays because since I start slower and I work from home time.
Yeah.
I look my day looks a lot more like 8 to 6 or 8 to 5 versus every other day is more like 7 to 4 or 6:45 to 4.
And what about weekends?
Weekends is a flood. Like we don't have that much going on the weekends because we don't run crews on the weekend. I'm generally sort of available on Slack because we have some call takers, who cover the weekend. So if they have a question, like I'm the one who'll generally answer those, right? Just a Slack message or something.
Right.
But unless, like, sometimes I will have chosen in advance. I'm trying to be more intentional about it, right? And I'll like be like, hey, like there's this one thing that I just wanted to get done and I haven't gotten to it. Like I just need an hour. And this is often actually my blog also is often like that. Like I'll save that for a weekend writing block where I'm just like, hey, I just want 2 hours Saturday morning to knock this out.
Right. Okay. So like broad strokes, you're working maybe a little bit more than half of the hours you used to work.
Yep.
And so everybody maybe looks at that and says, God, I need to be an SMB owner. It's going to be so much easier. How would you respond to that?
I mean, the issue is that like, I'm still just as tired, if not more tired at the end of each week. Right. And so that's a strange, but the benefit of having schedule control is real. The downside is there's certain elements of your schedule control you don't have, right? Where like, if a crew is running late and like they need something from you, like you're kind of there, right? You just have to wait. Like you're often the backstop, right, for the business. Or, if like something specific has to happen on this weekend day until you're at a scale where you have somebody to cover weekends, like it's going to be you who goes, right? Like somebody like broke into one of our vehicles in the middle of, I told you about this, right? Like in the middle of our move, like my personal place. And so like, yeah, it's Saturday, we're in the middle of moving, but like I just have to drive to the office and see what's going on, right?
But it's the exception rather than the norm.
It's absolutely the exception rather than the norm. And so like, yeah, you can definitely plan your life better, which I like. I mean, the mental burden of it, right, which is why you're tired. That's the part that is harder to manage for sure. And like I've worked a lot on over the past year, but there's just like you never finish work, right? Like the list of stuff to do is just longer and longer. You're never really catching up.
And so I think that's the misnomer is generally speaking, people see owners maybe more in your seat or my seat 3, 4, 10 years in, and they
Yep.
see a lot more free time.
Yep.
And what they don't realize is like the mental burden is just as high as a job where you work 2 times as much. The stress is
Right.
just as high, maybe even higher, right? Because we haven't even talked about like the tax that is if you're an introvert or have introvert tendencies, and then you
Totally.
become a business owner and your job is people management and call it customer interaction, for example, you are going to be absolutely destroyed by half as many hours as you were in your prior job.
Totally. I mean, I've likened it to sort of being an antidepressant for the business, right? Like that's what your role as the owner, where the business has to go through these like significant ups and downs and swings, right? Like, and the employees, like, because they're W-2, they're not equity owners, like, they're not going to participate in the upside of those swings. Like, I think it is your role as a business owner to like lighten the downsides, right? Like, you have to eat some of that downside stress and pressure to allow your employees to have like a more flat experience of work.
That's a great point.
Because otherwise it's like, well, like it's not like I always like it cracks me up when small business owners are like, I don't like why I don't get why my employees like don't like act more or like care more about, and it's like, well, like they don't own it, right? Like it's just not the deal. And so you have to be able to kind of absorb that and then have your own outlets for releasing that stress and pressure.
And I think what that means is after hours, there's a tendency to always feel like you're on.
Mm.
You can always be thinking about the business. It's
Yep.
always sort of wearing at you in the back of your mind. And I think we all kind of fall trap in the early days to you constantly feel on. You're checking your phone, you're waiting for the next fire drill,
Totally.
and that kind of unnecessarily wears you out. I think
Hmm.
maybe let's be clear, in the first year or two, you should plan to work just as many hours, if not more, because
Yeah.
getting the transition right just takes a ton of time.
Totally.
And a lot of this like hours decrease benefit comes 2, 3, 4 years in.
Yeah. No, that's definitely the case because there's an element of like you're doing firefighting all day and then in the afternoons or evenings that's when you actually like work on the business,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's a little bit of like you have to do both side by side because you're never gonna like within a normal week or work day you're just not gonna have the time to really advance your business.
Right. So, and I guess I kind of have two examples that are very different. One is like the first business we ever bought, the roll off dumpster rental business.
Yep.
And my experience there as a operator and an owner was much more like yours. It didn't, we were essentially a call center. Like
Yep.
we were a digital marketing company that got customer leads. We picked up the phone. We proverbially swiped the credit card, took the
Right.
customer payment, turned around, called the hauler. They delivered and fulfilled the dumpster rental. And
Yep.
so it was very much like a retail business. We opened
Right.
at one time every morning and we closed. The phones shut off at 5 o'clock. And
Hmm.
so it was almost like I very much could like wall off my work hours. It started
Nice.
here, it ended here, and anything beyond that was optional and really
Right,
not
because
all
I
that
guess you
helpful.
couldn't do service provision after hours anyways.
Correct.
Interesting. Yeah, because I guess for us, so we have call coverage 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday and 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
And so that makes it a little bit harder where those questions can kind of come in at random and you're sort of triaging like, Like I get those Slack messages all the time where they'll like our CSRs overseas will ask me a question, and my response will often be like, "Okay, can you just email this to me?"
Yeah,
And that way, it's like in the inbox for tomorrow, and I don't want to, it's sort of out of my Slack for now.
sure. So yeah, I think like the misnomers around being an owner is that it you can totally control your hours. I'd say you can when you decide the business to buy, but if you
Right.
buy in like a lot of us self-funded searchers do in the sort of blue collar services, manufacturing, it generally starts a lot earlier in the day. It
Hmm.
it surprises people how early the day ends. Like 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock ends is completely normal.
Yep.
But so too is being at the office at 5:45 in the morning. And
Yeah.
so if you have kids, you're not a morning person. Like you do have control, but it's not perfect. And
No.
like my wife also starts really early. So I have been the one that's ended up flexing in the morning to push back my start in order to do the morning routine. And then
Hmm.
I end up going later than most. She covers at home, and that's how we trade off.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, the first couple years, it was, I was the one opening the gate, right? Like
Yeah.
at the yard. And so it was not just like, you have to be there. It's like there's like this little undercurrent of like, oh my God, if I sleep in, like our crews can't go out kind of energy. And obviously, like I mean, that was like maybe a first year, not past that, but and that got delegated and whatnot, so it's not so crucial anymore. But there's a list of stuff like that where, uh, like depending on what kind of business you buy, there's certain like non-negotiables from the business that you just have to like orient your life around.
And if those kind of things, I guess none of it is like earth shattering, but it's a lot of this stuff is really hard to. A lot of us buy a small business to own and be independent, to control our time, be independent. And like, I think that's a bit of a fool's errand to think that that's the case, especially early on.
Totally. No, I mean, I really felt for the first couple years, and it's only starting to shift now, like 3.5 years in.
Hmm.
It really felt like, yeah, the business controlled my time, right? Like I had ideas of what I wanted my time to look like, and I tried to set it up. But if the business needed something from me, like it wouldn't get it.
A couple other things that to me were misnomers because I think a lot of us, when we leave our jobs, are actually like less mature than we think we are. And so,
Absolutely.
and you got to have a little bit of
Hubris.
hubris to go ahead and quit your career and do this for sure. But I think I've seen a bit of a trend that worries me where one, y- I think a lot of us who are fundamentally introverts can turn it on a little bit. Like we know that's part of
Hmm.
the job. We turn it on and then we need just some extra time to get our energy back later in the day.
Hmm.
But if you think that you can sit behind a computer and be a good business owner, you are in for an absolute world of hurt.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is a fundamentally people oriented job.
And it doesn't mean people so you get to like make the birthday cakes and have fun all the time. It means generally you're absorbing all the bullshit that comes into work every day by people.
Dude, so Friday last week we moved to the new yard finally, and so I went out. I bought a grill. I was like grilling burgers for like 3 hours. And I was like, man, if this is what I did every Friday, like that'd be fine, right? Like people are happy to see me. Like the burgers are good. It's like, man, I wish this. I would like I wish being the like team cheerleader was more core to my job, and it's obviously it is an important part of the job, but it's just not actually what the vast majority of my day looks like.
And that's all to say it doesn't really matter how your own day is going or your own life. You have
No.
a newborn baby who slept 3 hours the night before. If you don't show up and can still absorb the issues that come up, you're not meant to be an owner. That's the job.
Right.
If you, I don't know, if you got in a fight with your spouse and you're off your rocker that morning, well,
Yep.
you don't exactly get to come to work and offload that onto somebody else. People are going to come
No.
to work and offload their stuff on you. And that's the
Absolutely.
role as the owner.
Yep. Yeah, and like to caveat it a little bit, I definitely will have days where I go in and I'm like, oh, I don't have it today, right? And so then I can adjust my plan for the day to say like, hey, today's not a day to push.
Yeah.
Today is a day to maintain and kind of get by. Um, but you can't. But you're 100% correct. Like you can't offload that on your team, right? Like you can't make your team's life worse because like you're having a bad day.
Exactly. And I think the other one too is, um, I worry that our generation there was a little bit of not a teaching, it was less direct than that. But there was a impression that I got in school and in my early career that if you were good at selling, if you were a salesperson, that was a negative. And
Mm,
what's fascinating to me is how much, and we're not talking just selling to customers. We're talking about
right.
selling to your team, selling to all of the stakeholders, you know, motivating them, leading them in many ways is the same activity. It's sales. And I think if you're going to get into this game, you should just assume that 90% of your job is sales. And if that doesn't
Totally.
get you energized, I'm not sure you should do this.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think sales to customers is by far the easiest, right? Like I can do that all day. Like that's not hard. I know we do good work. Like all of the stuff that you say as like a quote unquote salesperson,
Yeah.
like I just believe it and it's true. Selling to your team is much harder, right? Because everything that comes with business strategy and business planning and all of that, like there's a lot of variables in it. You don't know for sure it's going to work. You obviously have a plan and you're excited about it, but like selling your team on your plan while also giving like the appropriate, like, yeah, but like maybe it'll change, right? Like, I don't know. I find that much harder.
And then the last one, then I'll move on. Everything's off my chest when I say this one is there are a lot of people who are interested in ETA. And once they get going, pursuing some opportunities, they are almost looking for third parties to help them make decisions, like what kind of
Totally.
business to buy, what's the right decision, how to all this stuff. I'm just going to gloss over the details. And I think I'm trying to suggest that when you get into the seat, there's nobody above you as the owner to tell you how to make a decision. And so I worry a lot of us, maybe it's a generational thing. We had relatively strong personality baby boomer parents who,
Right.
made a lot of our decisions for us. And that
Right.
is a huge burden when you go to become an owner because everything falls to you.
Yeah, the decision fatigue is real, right? Like you're just processing decisions all the time. I mean, this happens to me all the time now where we've sort of transitioned part of my role to be more on like complex job management, where all of our normal jobs kind of run through our normal flow with our ops manager, but the weird kind of like one off, like big jobs, like I kind of project manage actively. And so it happens all the time that I get a call from the job site and the crew lead's like, hey, like, here's what the problem is. And the real and like our crew leads are good problem solvers. So by the time they've called me, like we actually have a problem. And there's some element of like you almost want to like vamp on the phone for a while because you're trying to figure out what happens next.
But here's the
um,
point, like as the owner,
yeah,
especially like almost the better the business, the
yeah,
more the black and white issues that come up, the more your team can put
can
those
handle.
fires out on their own independently,
Absolutely.
which by definition means you're only going to get the hard ones.
100%. All that you just get the gray areas. And I mean, I've started doing this with the team where when they call me, I'll be like, okay, hang on, I need to think for a second. And like we're just silent so I can actually like think and figure out what I want to do next. And but like the reality is like I very much believe that you have sort of like a decision battery tank for a day. And as the day progresses, like you're using up that battery as you make more and more decisions. So like that's why like Monday morning, one of the early decisions I make is like, what are my priorities for this week? Because like I want to have decision battery to make that decision. And then later, when I have no decision battery, I just have to execute tasks. Like that's fine. Right. And so I feel like that's a part of what I'm trying to do is like I know there's going to be unexpected draws on my decision battery. So like how do I like preload the important ones?
And so, like stepping back from all this, if somebody's listening and hears that we work two-thirds the number of hours that we compared to what we used to work, and yet we're even more exhausted, this is why.
Yeah.
If you're sort of a quasi introverted over analyzer, well, being a small business owner is going to blow your mind every single day.
Totally. I did have a lot of fun the other day because I finally figured out in our new ERP that how I can export like every job right into a CSV file with the actual clocked hours versus estimated hours
Really?
with crew leader and estimator and client name, like all of it. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to spend the next 4 hours working on this.
But that's fascinating because then you can figure out
Yeah,
like how is your budget to actual on time estimation.
ex-
It's
exactly.
so
No,
cool.
it's way more fun.
Yeah, sitting behind a
Unfortunately,
computer.
like, yeah, sit behind a computer and do some Excel work. Like, yes, sign me up.
All right. Okay. So let's pivot a tiny bit to another thing that I've gotten asked a lot. And I think part of this is coming from the fact that as ETA becomes more popular, it's becoming more competitive. It's harder to find a good
Yeah.
business at a good price. And
Yep.
so people,
I was going to ask you about this too, so I'm glad you're bringing it up.
this episode is brought to you by Aspen HR. Are you sick and tired of dealing with rising health insurance costs? Did you just acquire a business and discover the employee handbook hasn't been updated in 5 years? Do you think there is an opportunity to make your payroll process more efficient? Or are you tired of dealing with slow responses and payroll errors from your current vendor? If you want to professionalize your HR, benefits, and payroll function, reach out to Aspen HR. Run by a former searcher, Mark Sinatra, Aspen HR is the white glove PEO for search operators. Email sales@aspenhr.com today. And for our listeners, Mark will offer you a complimentary HR due diligence assessment. Got it. All right. Well, so where I'm going is not necessarily like how to deal with that, but if you're a first time buyer or advising somebody that's a first time buyer, there's kind of like some rules of thumb. Like one, buy as big a business as humanly possible and pay up for it, and why you might do that. I think
Hmm.
generally the reason we do that is, or we hear this advice, size can be a proxy for maturity of a business. So a
Yep.
mature business is generally like less risky. It generally has the maturity to grow faster potentially and can be
Yep.
worth more. And then I think they're the one that a friend of ours has kind of gotten on the train of, Nick Hashka, was, well, do the opposite. If you're going to spend 2.5 years searching for a big business, why wouldn't you do the opposite? Go buy something doing 2, 3, 400K of SDE. You can
Hmm.
find tons of those and get in the seat in 6 months. And those are way less risky from like a number of zeros on your PG. Your
Yep.
opportunity cost is lower because you won't spend as much time searching. And then like I guess recently, just because people have struggled to find stuff that's good, is kind of like the lifestyle business, the business spitting
Hmm.
off 100K of cash. And I don't know. I just figured we'd talk about the pros and the cons of each.
Yeah. No, that's I've thought about that a lot, and I generally still give the advice like to go buy bigger and take investor capital if you can, because the bigger business you buy just has more structure that you can actually build upon. I will say, like, with what I know now as, a 3 years in business operator, my kind of confidence to go buy a 300K STE business and run that is much higher. And that's sometimes what I wonder. Like, I mean, like Nick is a really good operator, right? And he's now gotten several years of operating under his belt. Like, I'm curious, like for me or for him or for you, like, would that have been a good first deal though, right? Like maybe that's a good deal now because we actually have gotten a lot of reps at being a small business owner. But as a first deal, that scares me a little bit more.
All right. I'm going to take the other side of this, which is if you have something doing 250 grand of SDE, it's probably doing $1 million or less of revenue.
Yep.
And so I have seen some folks buy big businesses and not have any operating experience and not really know what the heck they're doing when they get in the seat. And
Hmm.
so
I mean, that was me.
I I know, but what I'm suggesting is, let's say, and maybe part of this is the viewpoint I have, which is I wish I did this when I was 25 and not 30.
Right.
And so if you're
Right.
25, in my mind, it's less risky to go buy something small. You have fewer people to manage, fewer customers to manage. There's less moving parts. Yes, the owner
That's
might be
true.
more integral to the daily functioning of the business, but you're going to have fewer zeros on your PG. Maybe you don't need to bring in investor dollars, so you don't have like the investor management, investor relations function that a lot of us have.
Mm-hmm.
And really, what you can do is solely focus on growing the revenue and earnings of your business without a
Yes.
lot of the stress. Like, if you fail with a $900,000 acquisition, you're going to be able to brush that off quickly and get back on the horse. And so,
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess the more I see searchers without any operating experience go search for a big business, I worry
Mm-hmm.
like they should maybe do the intermediate step. Go buy something small and get some chops in a lower risk situation.
Right. No, I mean, like the argument obviously is if you go buy the big business, like you can afford people who can operate the business, right? And you manage them. But I'm totally with you that like that's actually not the case for a few years often.
I mean, look at your experience.
Totally. Yeah, mine was total like you just have to learn to be an operator.
Right.
There's no budget. Yeah, the one thing so on the smaller businesses, I think like what happens sometimes is people end up buying a smaller business because they don't have the cash to buy a bigger one and they don't want to raise investor capital, right? Which I understand. But like the problem with the smaller business is you don't have as much cash flow to invest at all, right? You're marching for errors tighter on an absolute dollars basis. So like if anything, what I would say is like, okay, like if you want to get ahead of 2 years of searching when you in theory like don't have a salary, like yeah, I would much rather if you could go buy a small business and not take a salary for 2 years and like use that excess cash flow to put it back into the business. Like that to me feels like a great plan, right? But it basically requires that you have enough liquidity to get by for the next couple of years.
It's
Personal liquidity.
it's a fair point because let's just do
Yeah.
some quick math. You buy 250K of SDE for $1 million. And
If you bought it for $1 million, you're screwed.
yeah,
That's way too high.
yeah, my bad. Let's do like
Yeah.
2.5 times SDE. You're buying 400K of SDE for $1 million.
Okay.
You're putting $700,000 of leverage on it just to be conservative. I mean,
Yeah. Probably more. Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Well, the punchline is
Yes.
your free cash flow after paying your principal and interest, but before paying yourself any salary is probably 200.
Yeah.
And so you pay yourself a salary of 100 and you have
Yep.
$100,000 a year of breathing room.
Correct.
That's less than $10,000 a month to reinvest
Yep.
in the business. So the thing it always comes back to is it's the ability to grow the business is based on the operator's sweat. And that's it.
Totally.
That's all you really have.
I mean, and like you have to think about it as okay, if it's 400K of SDE and it's like a $1.5 million revenue business, right? Like that's a pretty standard small business size, 1.5 million
Sure.
doing 400 net.
Yep.
Like on that 1.5 million, 100K, is less than a 10% swing in your like P&L for the year, right? Like your insurance could come back on renewal and like eat up 40K of that.
Oh God,
Um,
so true.
right?
Or a
Like
truck
there's a
breaks
lot
down,
of
or
a truck breaks down. Exactly.
an important hire quits who is making 100 a year, and your
Yeah,
next most feasible replacement wants 170.
exactly. Like that 100K will get chipped away so fast. You have to almost like grow fast enough to before that happens. Like that's the hard part. That's where I'm like, oh man, like if you could have the liquidity of your own salary for those first couple of years, I think that could be like a make or break difference for that deal size.
Yeah, it's a good point. So that's probably the risk, right? At the end of the day, is
Yeah,
if you buy that main street size business, it ultimately comes down to you not needing the cash and reinvesting it, and
right.
the value or effectiveness of your sweat equity and growing revenue and earnings. Now, the flip side
Absolutely.
is it's probably easier to, in dollar terms, to double or triple the revenue of a business on a smaller business. So,
Yes.
you know, and if you do that, like you take that same 1.5 million revenue, 400K of SDE business, and you triple it to or double it to 3 of revenue and, 750 of EBITDA. Well, now you're
Mhm.
getting close to a business that can trade for some enterprise value, and, you can put $1 million in your pocket and not to say you had less risk. You definitely had risk. You had less like financial, personal guarantee risk.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's right. It's tough though, because like if you're solving for the financial outcome, right? And the financial outcome is based on absolute dollars, right? Like you're not actually solving for percentage increases or something like that.
Yeah,
Then like the bigger you buy, the larger the pie is,
that's a good point.
right? And so like a 20% increase can be the equivalent of doubling a small business.
It's a good point. It's a really good
Uh,
point.
so, which I mean, I feel like that's like part of probably the experience you've had with PSG versus the dumpster rental business, right? Like choosing a game that's just a bigger business to begin with, like you only have however many hours a week you have, like applying those hours to a bigger business will be higher leverage.
100%. That was the fundamental learning in defense business
Yep.
was buy bigger, buy with a huge team, a
Yep.
really young, aggressive growth mindset team. But I'll argue that I'm glad that opportunity didn't come across my plate until I was, you know,
Ready?
ready for it. It was
No, that yeah.
those
There's
first few
definitely an
reps.
element of that. Yeah. The reps matter. I totally agree with that.
Like I'll never ever forget the first morning we owned that first business. It was a Monday morning, and I drove in to meet with the bookkeeper who came in at 6 a.m. every Monday morning to do his work.
Hmm.
And he had to teach me what an opening balance sheet was because I had no earthly idea.
You're lucky I mean, I'm glad for you you had a bookkeeper to do that. Must be nice.
Good point. But like, just think, you come out of school. I was, an M&A lawyer, fancy job in a fancy office tower. And I didn't know the first thing about running a small business.
Totally. Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like I was in my first week still realizing that like, oh, because this is an asset sale, I got to like reset the whole balance sheet,
Ugh,
right? Because I'd done a lot of acquisitions in private equity, but they were all stock sales, right? So we'd never had this issue before of like, oh, like, and I don't know, like, I was about as well prepared as I think you can be as a searcher. Like, I had done a lot of research, talked to a lot of people, and somehow like that tidbit had just kind of not made it to my head that like, oh, I need to import all of the lists from QuickBooks, but I actually don't import any of the financial records.
exactly. And the problem is,
Yeah,
when you're in finance or in sort of a more corporate job, there's always other people to do it. The operators do that.
totally.
Well, now all of a
Exactly.
sudden you are the operator.
Yes. It's funny because in hindsight, I recall. So me and Martin, the seller
Yeah.
of Bluma, we went back and forth and kind of like, okay, what are the hires I need to make? Because he agreed with me that like I needed to make a lot of hires to run this business, and so we were figuring out what are those hires, and then we would put a multiple on that number. And so he was very constructive and like worked with me on that. But I remember because one of the sticking ones was a bookkeeper, where I was like, I need a bookkeeper for this business, and he's like, look, like if you want to hire a bookkeeper, that's fine, but like I've done my bookkeeping for the whole time. So like I think you can totally just learn it and do it. So like we did not put a bookkeeper pro forma into the math. And so like I didn't have a bookkeeper for the first 2 years.
Yeah, you did. It was you.
It was me. That's right. Right.
And that's the point. That's
Yeah.
especially the point in a subscale or main street business is you have all these functions that in a perfect world with a perfect P&L, you hire somebody that's fantastic. You never have to think about it again. It's just not reality.
No. I mean, I was actually yesterday, we're kind of finishing out all of our mid-year reviews right now. And so yesterday I was and we're making a couple adjustments on the office team. And so I was redrawing our org chart, right? And what I did a little bit is like I drew our org chart and then I also drew like what does our ideal org chart like eventually look like? And then I shaded in all the roles that like me and Flavia are playing right now, right? Like at some point we need a production manager. Like she is playing the production manager role. At some point we want a sales manager. I'm playing the sales manager role. At some point we want like a real project coordinator. She's playing that role. Like all of these boxes. And I was like, this is actually a more accurate reflection of our org chart.
That's funny. And yet it's probably a little depressing, right? Because in order to actually think about being the kind of, not standoff, less involved owner, you end up having to
Yep.
grow the business in order to
Yep.
have the P&L room to hire real
Totally.
talent to fill those roles.
Yep. That's exactly it. I mean, because I counted, right? Because I was curious. I was like, okay, if I count up all these roles, it's like 40 people, right? And we're at 25. So it's not like it's very conceivable, like we can get there, but that's a different business than what we're at today.
And so maybe here's I didn't plan on this punchline, but when you go in and you try to figure out what the owner is doing and whether you can replace that owner, that what's true always is that owner is wearing multiple hats far better than you ever could for
Totally.
a year or two. They're
Totally.
just so effective at all the jobs they have in the business.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like I talk to searchers a lot who kind of have this idea of like, oh, like the owner is doing all these things inefficiently,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm going to improve and it's like, no, 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 no. Like you have no idea how efficient they're being actually. Like, yes, they're doing everything a little bit worse. And if you had like an A player focused on that one thing as their 40 hours a week job, 100% agreed. But but the fact that they're like wearing six hats, they're doing things about as efficiently as it gets.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough.
Uh, So related to this, what I was curious, so somebody commented on my blog, one of my blog posts the other day, on a post that's like from 4 years ago that I had forgotten I'd written. So he really, dug into the archives.
That's cool.
Yeah, but the post was titled, "Is it too late to buy a business?" And this is in 2021. And it was basically about this, like, I was hearing from lots of searchers and I was still searching then, like, it's gotten so competitive to buy a business, like all of these businesses are trading at high multiples. Like, did we miss the boat on search, basically? And like I wrote the piece being like, no, we did not miss the boat. So like it's not like I thought it was all, but it was like a real debate at the time was like, has this jumped the shark already?
Wow.
It's kind of crazy in hindsight because we're 4 years in and it's like so much more competitive and intense. But I was curious to hear your opinion because obviously you're running boot camp and you're working with searchers on a much more regular basis than I am. Sort of like, what is the morale like? Like, what is your guys' view on, how you get out there and actually get one of these deals closed?
Let's just agree with the conclusion, which is it is just far more competitive than it used to be. And
Right.
it's not just because ETA has gotten popular, it's because private equity has come way down market. And
Yep.
like all the time, $500,000 EBITDA businesses are pursued by private equity backed platforms,
Right.
right? I mean, you're being pursued by private equity backed platforms, I assume.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely get the like email pings
Yeah,
every now and then, right?
right.
Yeah.
So here's a few things we've changed. And one of them is a big learning from who at least comes to boot camp. The profile is more often than not somebody who needs to buy a business within an hour or two of where they live.
Hmm.
So the idea that most of us are local searchers, I thought was the exception back when I was doing it. Population of people I see, it's the norm. So
Right. No, you're right. Like I mean, definitely when you were, but even when I was searching, the kind of the party line was like, if you're not willing to search nationally, you're like not that serious.
exactly. Well, the problem is,
Yeah,
I think the lion's share of the growth of like the number of searchers is in the growth of self-funded searchers. And
totally.
so many of them are looking local because they're a little older. What does that mean? They
Yes,
likely have a spouse. They maybe have kids. So they have roots somewhere. And the idea of buying a business 3 states over and then uprooting is a non-starter for so many people that come to boot camp. That here's the reality. If all you do, because we used to teach this, you don't need to go direct. You don't need a proprietary search. Just go through the broker channel. Like you got plenty of deal
right.
flow. The reality is, if you're searching in a city like Tampa and all you're doing is looking at broker deal flow, you'll be out of new deal flow in 4 months.
Totally.
So we're all the way back to saying on day one of your search, you have to go direct.
Interesting. Okay, that makes sense because I didn't do that at all. I basically never went direct. but I was working part-time, so I had enough. But like the combination of working part-time, less competition meant that like there was enough deal flow to keep me occupied. But that's what I like. I mean, I still look at biz by sell, right? I look for if new tree services are being listed. Like there's not that many like interesting listings on any given week, I feel like. And I know a lot more searchers in Seattle than I've ever known.
Exactly right. And so, but
Yeah.
so that assumes you're geographically tied to a certain area, like a city of Seattle or a city like Tampa.
Yep.
So then if you end up agreeing that you have to go direct to owners from day one of your search, it implies you need to know like what kind of business are you looking for? And
Right.
if you're like me, I had no idea.
Absolutely.
I had a general size range based on what we could afford with a loan and in our cash. But otherwise, like if you're going to go direct, you need to know what industries you're hunting for.
Right. Or at least be able to speak intelligently to the owners that you're reaching out to.
Right.
Even if you're going across multiple industries, like there is an element of like, okay, can you get ramped up enough on any given industry quickly to be able to have a real conversation?
Sure. But you still have to build a list. If you're reaching out
Yes.
directly, you have to build a
Yes.
list, which means either saying no to certain industries or affirmatively choosing certain ones.
Right. Right.
So I don't know.
No, that's exactly right.
At bootcamp, then we've ended up essentially recruiting tools to help searchers not delegate, but let's call it like accelerate their proprietary search based on the
Hmm.
criteria they have.
Hmm.
Because you no longer can say, all right, I'm going to try broker for a year. And if I strike out, then I'll go direct.
No, I see what you're saying.
You have to start from
Right.
day one.
Yeah. You need to spin up, and especially because proprietary direct takes longer, anyways.
The
Right.
sales cycle
And
is
like,
super long.
yeah, no, that makes sense. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but the punchline is it's not too late, but it's harder.
It's harder. It's more expensive. So let's talk about expensive, right? Because
Okay.
I think that's a secondary consideration is okay, there are still businesses I would buy, but the prototypical $1 million of EBITDA, whatever, B2B services company that you guys, acting as if I'm the listener right now, you guys were lucky. Back in the day, that business was going to trade for $4 million. Today, it's 5.5, and the cost
Yeah.
of debt has 2x. How do I make the math work? What would you say to them?
I would say that that's a good question. I think, okay, here's what I would say. I think it's overstated how many businesses several years ago you could buy 1 million of EBITDA for 4 times. You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
true.
I think the ones that we talk about, like in that way vein, were definitely like there was things going on with them. Like good businesses still found good buyers at a good
Yep.
price, like a reasonable price. That being said, I agree. Like in general, obviously it's more competitive on the larger end of the scale. I think the reality is like your ability to find your edge as a buyer is crucial, right? And for a $1 million EBITDA business, like you just don't have a lot of edges against the other potential buyer pool out there.
I agree. So, what do you do?
I think you either go super super targeted and build an edge in a specific industry, whether you have a background in it or just general interest, and you just really like network the hell out of it, right? But that's tough and long and unclear when that'll happen. Or to your original point, like you go way smaller.
Exactly. I think
Yep.
the other one is we have seen too many searchers use too much leverage. If you're going to have to pay up and you're getting to that point where like you're getting uncomfortable, I would rather see a searcher. And the problem is like most of us do this for independence. And then the more equity we have to sell to investors, we almost feel like we're selling our souls to the devil. And I just think
Yeah.
in, if you're in this environment today, almost double the amount of equity you think you're going to put into the business. Like
Mm,
assume you're no longer going to own 70 or 80%. Be okay with owning 55.
right. And owning a majority is crucial, right, for a lot of people. And so like you can still achieve that and still put in much more equity.
Exactly. So I think
Yeah.
that's part of it.
No,
I think the
that's
other
good.
part is like forgivable seller notes. They're not easy to convince sellers to take them, but the one way you can generally buy a bigger, higher quality business is to buy something that's got hair on it, like customer concentration or,
Totally.
some kind of quirk that turns off a lot of buyers and keeps the multiple down. Well, go
Yep.
absorb that risk.
Yep. Except not customer concentration. I think that's like the one risk that like searchers should never buy.
It's true.
The problem with customer concentration is that any larger company can absorb it way better than any individual buyer, right? Because it's immediately not concentration for them.
I get it. We bought a fence company. I won't say when, but we bought one that had not nearly, but close to 50% customer concentration. But to the broader business, it was, just another large customer, but nothing meaningful.
Yeah. All right. Well, to wrap today, I think I have to officially, what's the word? Surrender that I'm getting crushed in the activity competition.
Oh, thank you for acknowledging that.
Yes. The problem, so Anna was gone the last 10 days. She just got back last night. She's on a family trip. And man, I was just in full like lie on the couch degenerate mode for like 10 whole days.
So last week's no postings, did that mean no activity?
There was maybe a couple little things, but like, yeah, at most it was probably like a couple points. Yeah, it was rough.
All right, you want to know what's fascinating? I actually weighed myself and I have officially not lost any more weight. So, so like for whatever it's worth, like whatever we're doing here, I'm doing more things and not getting anything out of it.
Well, yeah, we have to like agree that like weight is not the measure. That's the problem. Like you're healthier, you're gonna feel more energized to play with your kids. Like, oh, you'll probably like live longer the more you do this. Like those are the real benefits here.
I guess. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, but yes, it would be nice to have a little bit more of like an input-output feeling.
How long are we going on this activity tracker?
Well, this one runs through. This is the second to last week, so it ends next week.
Got it. All right, so I can officially go ahead and start looking at tea times in Florida.
Well, I need to tell me when the boot camps are coming up, and I'll tell you which one I can come for.
There's not one until October, but I'm going to let you choose the date. If you can't make it for boot camp, so be it. We are going to prioritize golfing.
Okay, cool. And my gut is that we do it more in like January because that's when it's like depressing in Seattle, and I would want to go to Florida.
Great.
So that's what my gut is, but I do officially abdicate. You like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not forfeit?
Yeah, no, because I beat you the old-fashioned way. You're not forfeiting. You're acknowledging your loss.
I concede. I concede. That's what it is.
Boom.
All right.
Awesome.
Excellent. Well, congrats. I am really impressed actually by the way in which you've maintained that pace all summer.
And I will tell you, if not for this competition, I would be in my old ways. So thank you.
Hell yeah.
For forcing me.
Well, and for next week or our next recording, we can talk about, do we re-up this somehow or in some similar form? Like we can make tweaks, we can do something else. But
I have a lot to say about that because there were many weeks where I got high counts and I didn't feel like I manipulated the numbers.
Yeah, you didn't feel like you like did the work.
Yeah, like I went a month without going for a jog or lifting heavy weights. I just did a bunch of those like air squats and push-ups, which better than nothing. But our tracker encourages that stuff.
Gaming. Yeah, gaming it. Yeah, okay. So that might not even be worth the podcast. That's probably just you and I talking, figuring it out.
What we will say, though, is now that we are acknowledging defeat and that golf will be played in Florida this winter, if you're still listening to this and you want to join us, reach out.
This is true. Yeah, that would be fun. A little Tampa golfing outing. Yep. I'm doing a searcher ETA golf outing in San Antonio in November. So if people are interested in that, they can reach out. We still have like 5 or 6 slots left.
Boom. All right.
All right.
We'll call it a day.
Onwards.